Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another one of these response videos to this particular challenge. It's time for Thrill Me Thursdays, because today is Thursday, so once again this is a response to Hey, Isn't That Devon Graham, who is, who came up with these Thrill Me Thursdays challenge. And I figured for this one, this was a really good one to do as well, just like last week's one. Now this one is top 5 horror films that you hate that I love. So basically these are 5 horror films that I picked that many people hate, but I personally do really love and enjoy these movies. I thought it was a really great list to do. Really enjoyed Hey, Isn't That Devon Graham's list as well. I know he mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, and Jason Goes to Hell, Return to Sleepaway Camp, things like that. So I thought it was a really interesting list to do. And I'm one of those kind of guys that tend to really enjoy films that get hated on a lot. Sometimes I love films that many people love and things like that. So, but I really do thought this was a really good list to do. So, let's get on to my top 5 horror films that you hate that I love. Number 5, I do have the DVD of this, but I figured I had the poster right here because it's signed. But number 5 is Jason X, signed by Kane Hodder right there on the machete. But yeah, my number 5 choice is Jason X because I feel like Jason X is a really fun movie. Yeah, it's in outer space. You can say it's cheesy, but I'm all in for that. It was the last time we got to see Kane Hodder play Jason. Does a great job once again. His last time as Jason. Has some fun kills, like especially the woman gets her face dunked into the liquid nitrogen, and her face gets frozen, and then she gets bashed in on the desk. Guy gets stabbed through the door, and things like that. There's some fun bits of humor as well, and things like that. I just think Jason X is a really fun movie. It's a really fun idea, putting Jason in space, and there's also a really cool scene when Jason gets put into like a simulated looking area where it's like Camp Crystal Lake, and there's these 2 girls in the sleeping bag, and he's like banging them against the tree and things like that. So there's a little bit of fun moments in that one as well. But I love Jason X. I always thought it was a fun movie. Number 4, April Fool's Day. I've mentioned this film many times before. I'm actually in the middle of doing the 31 Days of Horror in October challenge, and I mentioned that this was one of the films I was going to be reviewing for October. But April Fool's Day, I know a lot of people hate this film because I know a lot of people felt cheated at the end by the twist, because the title of the movie says it all with what the twist is. But still to this day, I always thought this was like one of the most clever twists in a horror movie. It was really refreshing and things like that. So it was kind of weird calling it a slasher movie because of the title itself, because of the ending. But I still think it's a really clever twist. And I think that's why a lot of people felt like they got cheated and they don't like the movie because they felt cheated by the twist. But I still think I think it's a great twist, really clever twist. And you have a really great cast of people. Amy Steele, Thomas F. Wilson, Ken Olant, Clayton Rohner, Deborah Foreman, and things like that. There's a lot of people in this movie that you'll recognize from other things. But April Fool's Day, I love the twist. Number 3, I do have on Blu-ray, but I'm going to mention it, but The Blair Witch Project. I know a lot of people love this film when it first came out back in 1999. Now, as years have gone by, people crap on the film nowadays and things like that. I really don't understand why this film gets hated on nowadays. I still think this film works really, really well. I know my buddies Rob and Alex are big fans of the movie as well, just like I am. All 3 of us love The Blair Witch Project. I just think The Blair Witch Project still works to this day. I like the whole... it was really the film that really started the boom of the found footage genre of horror films. Because, you can say, Cannibal Holocaust was in that same realm as well that kind of inspired Blair Witch. But it was really Blair Witch that inspired a lot of other found footage horror films, like As Above, So Below, The Devil Inside, and, things like many, many more. But the Blair Witch Project, I love. I still love to this day. I like the actors, Heather, Mike, and Josh. I thought their performances were genuine. I really felt like I was with them in the woods and things like that. The woods, the really creepy concept, in the dark and things like that. They'd be reacting in the way that many people would have reacted. Like, they'd be saying stuff that, like, us would be thinking of and things like that. So that's why I give the movie props, because I just love this film. Really creepy direction and things like that. I love the Blair Witch Project. Never really understand why it gets hated on nowadays. Number 2, this film gets hated on a lot too. I think it's one of the more underrated John Carpenter films, and I love it. Village of the Damned, which I think this might have been a remake of something else from back in the day. I don't remember for sure exactly, but John Carpenter did this film before. This was in 1995, so this was before he did Vampires with James Woods, which I also love. But Village of the Damned, I always thought this was a really underrated horror film from the 90s. I think it's one of John Carpenter's most underrated movies. I really like the idea where it's basically all these kids, like on the back here, with the white hair and the red glowing eyes, and think they're taking over this town. And it has a really solid cast of people. Christopher Reeve, Superman himself. I think sadly this was the last film that Christopher Reeve completed before his horse riding accident that's left him paralyzed for the rest of his life until he passed away, which was sad. But it was really nice to see Christopher Reeve in the movie. I miss Christopher Reeve. You also have Kirstie. He's a physician guy. You have a government scientist played by Kirstie Alley. You also have Linda Kozlowski, the former Miss Crocodile Dundee herself. You have Michael Pare. Mark Hamill has a small role in this as a preacher and things like that. I just think this film works really, really well. Really solid cast, and I really like the actors who played the kids. I think one of them is actually Thomas Dekker, who went on to be in the Elm Street remake, among many other movies, is one of the kids. And he's kind of like the kid that does have a heart to him. He's not completely evil, unlike the other kids. But Village of the Damned I always loved. Never understood the hate that the film got. And the number one that I had to mention is one of the most hated horror films that many people hate, but I love. I had to mention this one because it's such an underrated gem, and I fell in love with it ever since I first saw it a couple years ago. The Mangler. I know this is considered like one of the worst horror films of the 90s, one of the worst Stephen King adaptations and things like that. I really don't understand it. I think this film is a blast to watch. It's bloody, it's graphic. I really love Robert Englund in the movie. He plays a really weird character who owns this laundromat place. Ted Levine as a good guy, he plays a cop. It was really cool to see Ted Levine as a good guy. Directed by Tobe Hooper. I'd probably say I want to say Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite Tobe Hooper film, but it's almost like, but I feel like I want to say this movie is. Just because I feel like this film gets hated on so much, but I don't understand it. It's fun, it's bloody, it's graphic, and the ending is just a blast. Because they perform an exorcism on the laundry machine, and then it sprouts arms and legs, and it's shooting fireballs and cutting people in half and things like that. They perform an exorcism on it and things like that. So you know you're not going to take the film seriously. It's a killer laundromat. I think it's just fun, entertaining value. Really good, fun movie. So that is pretty much it for this challenge. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.